Hello, 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 and welcome to It's All Good. I'm your host, Latavia, and welcome back for another episode. Before we get into things, I just want to share that I have a special announcement. For those of you watching, you can see my shirt says It's All Good. So for those of you listening, you can't see it, but wanted to let you all know that there is now merchandise that you can purchase. We have t-shirts, there's socks, there's phone cases, mugs, even some tote bags. So just a lot of different good things. So be sure you check that out. Moving on, I want to get into the gratitude moment for the week. And today or this week, I'm grateful for Hamilton being recorded and put on Disney Plus. For those of you who have not seen it, I would definitely say if you're able to either subscribe to Disney Plus or get someone to let you use their Disney Plus for, just temporarily so you can watch Hamilton, I would definitely encourage you to do so. I've wanted to see Hamilton for a while now, but just hadn't been able to do it, wasn't able to spend the money or didn't feel comfortable spending the money for the tickets. Anywho, now it is available to watch. I watched it and I'm very impressed. I really, really enjoyed it, and I can understand what some of the hype, I do understand what some of the hype was about, just from it being, I would say, a very good show all around. The casting was great, amazing songs. I probably will watch it again just because I'm sure there's some things that I missed, but just overall a great show, a great story. I didn't know very much about Alexander Hamilton, or just kind of all of the different things that were going on around that time, but I appreciate how they did it. More so just the irony and all of the, I would say, the hypocrisy, the double standards or different things that were highlighted in terms of the founding fathers, how they were fighting to be free, and yet everyone in the country was not free. 4th of July just passed and Independence Day for the country, but it was not an Independence Day for everyone in the country, myself included, had I been alive. But one of the things that stood out to me was a lot of, just like I said, the parallels of what was happening then, and then even just looking at how a lot of stuff is still applicable today with everything that's going on. One of the things that Alexander Hamilton seemed to struggle with or spend a lot of time talking about, or that was kind of an internal struggle that he had, was this thing around legacy. And I don't want to give too much away, but essentially he was an orphan. He was an immigrant that they pointed out several times, but just the fact that the woman he married came from money, and there was conversation about people being born into money or born into wealth and having a higher station in life, and the effect of that, the importance of that. And he kept talking about legacy and what his legacy would be and how he wanted to make sure that he did something that, if I got a shot, I'm going to take it and I leave my mark. And even towards the end of the play, there was talk of just who tells your story, like what is your story, what was your impact on the world, and what will people say, like what will be the story that they tell about you if they even, continue that on. And that actually, like I said, I'm grateful for just being able to finally see the play, and then also see it in a way that I got a lot of the close-ups that had I been in person, I may not have been able to see because I was not going to be in the front row, let's be honest. So, but like I said, legacy is something that he spent a lot of time talking about, and it got me just thinking, legacy is important. We can talk about legacy in so many different ways, but I know that as he was talking about, building his legacy, having children, the story being told, it's okay. He developed his legacy. His wife was instrumental in continuing that on and making sure that he wasn't forgotten, that his contributions to the country weren't forgotten. But it's more so, as I think about it, as I have growing, I'm building out my career of the things that I want to do and what I want to be known for. I think about my family, my grandma, her legacy, things that have been passed on. And I am reminded that there are far too many of us that, as we are building our legacy, have not taken the time to have that difficult conversation with ourselves and with our families about, how is my legacy going to continue? What is my legacy? We spend a lot of time talking about that, building wealth, building a legacy, the family culture, just who I am, what I do. But how is that going to continue? I think oftentimes people associate that with having children. So if I have children, my legacy lives on, they continue my name, or if there's a family business, they continue the family business, just different things like that. But on a larger, more broader scale is when you are able to accumulate wealth in whatever shape it is, or even if it is buying a home, just anything that you've done to establish yourself and your family, a part of making sure that that legacy continues is making sure that you have put things in place, so that there are means for that to happen. And an example of where I feel as though someone built an incredible legacy, but didn't do everything they could to ensure that certain things continued in their family. Prince comes to mind, Aretha Franklin. And for those who don't know, they both have passed away, but it's the understanding that neither of them had a will or any type of estate plan in place prior to their passing. And so it's just one of those things that's a part of what I do with my profession is estate planning. And just, I understand it's not a conversation, it's not a topic that people really like having because it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to talk about death. But I wanted to spend a little time today talking about the importance of estate planning, just kind of what it is and how it plays a role in transferring legacy or continuing your legacy. When we think about continuing the legacy from the context of estate planning, it can mean a few different things. It could be creating a will, developing a trust, updating the title or the deed to your house or any other property that you may have, any personal property, bank accounts, retirement accounts, insurance policies, these are all different things or vehicles in which you can use to transfer your wealth or transfer legacy. And I want to, I guess, up front, just put a disclaimer here. I am not giving anyone legal advice. I just want to kind of help facilitate or start a dialogue for you and your family in terms of just some of these things and having that difficult conversation. But like I said, it can look a few different ways. Oftentimes, I think when people hear estate planning, they think about, oh, I need to have a will or a trust. So just want to give you all just a little bit of information and some things to look up, think about. And so, like I said, initially, typically people think about a will. A will is literally, in its simplest form, it's a document that you get to be, it's your last chance to say, hey, this is what I want to have happen after I die. This is what I want, who I want to have or don't want to have things, how I want it to be handled. If you have minor children, you can set out who you want to be their guardian. If you were to pass before they reach the age of majority. If you have heard of the term trust fund baby, it could be someone whose parents had a certain amount of money set aside and they created a trust. And a trust is essentially I like to say it's a pot of money or a pot of something that is, the trust holds it. And then there's someone who's appointed as a trustee who dictates how those funds or those assets are distributed and on what schedule. But from, I guess, taking a step back from those things, just some things that I think are often overlooked when it comes to the conversation around estate planning, and that would be an advance medical directive and a power of attorney. An advance medical directive is essentially, if you may have heard the term living will or healthcare power of attorney. Depending on where you live, it may be called something different, but the overarching purpose of it is to give instructions on what you want to happen in the event that you are incapacitated or no longer able to take care of yourself for something related to your health. An example is you are in an accident, you end up, I guess the extreme case is someone ending up in a vegetative state and they're on life support. Do you want to remain on life support? Do you want them to do any and everything they can to try to save you and give you more time to wake up on your own if you're in a coma? Or it could be as simple as you're in the hospital for a procedure and something went wrong. They need to know, do you want to have pain meds? If you've seen in some television shows where there's people who are recovering addicts and they say, I don't want any drugs. I don't need any drugs given to me. Those are things that you can put in a healthcare power of attorney or advanced medical directive, as it's called here in Maryland. So with that, it can be as simple as filling out the form, designating, I want so-and-so to be my healthcare agent in the event that I am deemed to be incapacitated or unable to take care of myself, make decisions for myself. I am appointing this person to make these decisions on my behalf. And then you can take it a step further and you can give specific instructions about what you want this person to do. If you want them to do things exactly as you have spelled out, or if you want to give them the freedom to consult with your doctors and to see what would be the best course of action. If you want to have, like I said, the life-sustaining measures taken, if you don't want them to be taken. And like I said, you can go as detailed as you want, or you can be very general or as broad as you want, but it's up to you. But this is something that I suggest that everyone, no matter the age or socioeconomic status, encourage everyone to do, because you never know. And with everything that has occurred this year, it's just another reminder that, tomorrow is not promised. Literally every day things are changing. And so that's just, like I said, something else to think about. Most states have a statutory form or just kind of a standard form that you can use. But it's, like I said, it's one of those things that you don't have to have a whole lot of money to do this. This is something that affects everyone or can affect everyone regardless of what you have going on in your life. No matter how much money you have, disease, COVID-19, it's not a respecter of persons. And to give you, I cannot remember the person's name. Shivo comes to mind, but it was a case several years ago. It was in Florida where there was a woman who, forget what happened, but essentially she ended up on life support, and there was no healthcare power of attorney, advanced medical directive, nothing in place. But she was married, but it came down to this very long, very public battle between her husband and her parents about whether or not she should remain on life support. And when I say that, it drug out for a couple years of just what should she, what would be the best course of action? Is it do the parents have the say? Does the spouse, or maybe it was a boyfriend, like who gets the final say? And those are all things that could be avoided if you take the time to have the difficult conversation, I would say first with yourself about, what do I really want? What would I, what kind of stress would this be on my family members if they had to make this decision? Do I trust I trust certain people to honor my wishes? Do I know that, hey, they're probably not going to be able to handle it? So just those are things to think about. And so if you do not have one, I would strongly encourage you to get one. The next document I want to talk about that I think people hear about more often is a power of attorney. Power of attorney is you are in essence giving someone else the control or the authority to make decisions, act on your behalf, or essentially act as if they were you. And so it's a lot of power to give someone. And so I don't recommend people to just give someone power of attorney all willy-nilly. You really want to take some time and think about it before you do that, because like I said, they are essentially acting as yourself, and they can do things on your behalf. They can sign contracts in your name. They can open bank accounts. They can sell a house. They can buy a car. They could open lines of credit, things of that nature. And so they can be very beneficial, especially if you have someone who has gotten a little older. They're not able to get around as much, so they need some assistance with those things. Or just for someone, it could be a temporary situation where, say they had surgery, they're not able to drive right now, but certain things still need to be taken care of, and they need someone to go, say maybe pick up a check or deposit a check or pick up prescriptions, different things. They just want someone to be able to do that on their behalf. Oftentimes you see it with a parent and a child, where the parent has gotten a little older, so the child is just stepping in to help. That it's not saying that the parent is incapable of doing these things, but that's more often when you see them. Some important things to highlight with respect to power of attorney is it has to be given to someone. So I can't give myself power of attorney over my mom. She would have to give me power of attorney. She would have to sign giving me that authority to do so. And the power of attorney, it can either go into effect right away. You could have it go into effect at a later time. But my biggest caution to people when thinking about the power of attorney is make sure it's someone that you trust, and that they are going to act with your best interest at heart, because there's a lot of horror stories around that. Some other things to think about, like I said, in terms of outside of the will or a trust, is if you have bank accounts, if you want someone to have access to those funds when you pass away, you could do, some banks let you can add a joint owner, and so that way there's someone else's name is there. The risk with that, of course, is someone else's name is on the account and they have access to it, same as you. Or some have what's called a payable on death account, and you can set up a beneficiary or a transfer on death. Different banks call it different things, but essentially it's set up so that way once you pass away, the bank already has information on the person who's been given permission to access the funds. And this could help in a situation if you needed money to pay for funeral expenses or burial costs. The money's there and you don't have to wait to go through the courts or a longer process to get access to the money. Some other things to think about in terms of retirement accounts or life insurance policies. Life insurance policies don't pass through a will, but you want to make sure that you have identified a beneficiary and that it's updated. An area where this has become an issue in the past for some is if you have people who are married, and while you're married, you have your spouse listed as your beneficiary. You get divorced, but you forgot to go back and update the beneficiary on your life insurance. So if you end up let's say you end up remarrying, but you don't put your new spouse on the policy and you pass away, your former spouse is going to get the proceeds from the life insurance policy because they're listed as the beneficiary and they are the legally they have the right to take that money. And unless they're just someone who out of the goodness of their heart decides that they want to give some of the money to your current spouse, they don't have to. And if they don't, they're not doing anything wrong. Same with investments or other retirement accounts. Just you want to make sure that you have updated the beneficiaries on those policies, because those are things that you want to make sure the money goes to who you want it to go to. If for those who are veterans, there's different rights or different things that are available to veterans. So those are things that you need to arrange prior to death if you wanted to be buried in state. You can specify that in your will, but it's not automatic unless there has been some type of prior coordination. And for those who are entrepreneurs who have their own businesses, the same way that you would do these things for yourself personally, you want to think about that for your business, because God forbid something happens, you want to make sure that the business continues. You need to have some type of succession plan in place. And that is identifying a backup person to, if you're in business, if you're a one-man shop or a one-woman business, you want to make sure you've identified someone as a backup who can step in and keep things going if you were to pass, or even if you were just to have a long-term illness that prevented you from working or keeping the business going. The same with the finances of your business. So you just want to think about all of those different things. And just to go back to the will for a little bit, I often hear people say, oh, I don't have any money, or I don't have any assets. I don't have a whole lot, so I don't know why I need a will. I still encourage you to have a will, because you have more than you think you have. And a lot of times I've heard people in the past tell me, oh, I don't own my home, I don't have anything, so I don't need a will. But even if you don't own your home, if you own your car, if you have different, the items within your house could be more valuable than you think. And even though they may not have a high monetary value, a lot of these things have a very high intangible or intrinsic value, and just that the sentimental value associated with things oftentimes creates more stress or drama after a person has passed away than you realize. So I always use the example of, kitchen appliances. If there's like that cast iron skillet that mom had, or that certain recipes, if there's jewelry, different clothing items that were very important to the person, the children or even grandchildren oftentimes feel like, oh, well, no, they wanted me to have this, or she wanted me to have that, he wanted me to have this, and so I should have it. And if there's nothing that clearly states who gets what or how it should be divided, it creates arguments, it creates fights, and then oftentimes the court is required to get involved. And anytime the courts get involved, that's more money, more time, more stress, and things just get drawn out a lot longer than they need to be. So I encourage you, if you do not have a will, to get one, to think about it, and not to say that you have to go out right away and get one done. Please don't try to do it on your own. Consult an attorney. Even if you're not sure that you're ready to do it, have a conversation. You can do research on your own. There is a lot of information you can find online, but before you actually create a document or try to have something go into effect, I strongly encourage you to consult with an attorney. And so, as I said at the beginning, what I'm sharing is purely for informational purposes. I do want you all to, like I said, to take the time and think about it, because things are changing literally every day. You just never know. And so I much rather us be prepared than to be caught off guard. And I will be doing a more formal, session or conversation on estate planning and just the different ins and outs and specifics about certain aspects of it and what you can do. But I'll put out more information on that once it gets closer. But for the purpose of today's conversation, like I said, or today's episode, it's just to kind of get your wheels turning if you hadn't thought about it, and then to like I said, have that conversation with yourself first, then have it with family, just to ask, hey, do you have a will? Do you have an advanced medical directive? And that's something that, like I said, regardless of age or health condition or what amount of assets you do or don't have, even if you have a bunch of debt, it's still something that you should do. Like I say for myself, right now, I don't have a whole lot of assets just yet, but it is important for me to have the advanced medical directive, so that in the event that something happens, I have already taken the time to express my desires from a health standpoint. And so yeah, those are, like I said, a very broad overview of just different aspects of estate planning. It can get a lot more nuanced depending on how many assets you do have, or if you own property in multiple states, if you own a timeshare, if you invest in, and depending on what you invest in, those all are things that, factor in terms of what would be the best plan for you in terms of looking at your overall estate plan. But I would say at the bare minimum, the basics would be having an advanced medical directive, a will, and potentially a power of attorney. And so I know that was a lot, or it's a lot of different things, and I intentionally did not touch on specifics of the various documents because, like I said, I want you to consult an attorney and have that conversation. And a lot of it is going to depend on your specific situation. And so it's not a one size fits all type of thing. And so please do not go out to LegalZoom or any of these other internet-based services and just create a document, because the laws in every state are different. And like I said, a lot of the forms are kind of general, and you don't know if it has the things that you specifically need based on your specific set of circumstances, especially from like I said, each state having different laws, and then also there's different tax implications for different things. So I do hope that you all will, kind of take heed of this, take some time to think about and start having the conversations amongst your family members. And if you have further questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. You can, send me a message, schedule something offline to, if you want, maybe I can talk through a few things to point you in the right direction. If you're concerned that, hey, I don't have the money I can't afford to pay an attorney, there are several resources available where you can have some of these documents created, or these services provided for free or at a reduced cost, depending on where you live. But in almost every state, there's some type of organization that provides these services, whether it be on a consistent basis, or a lot of times organizations will host different clinics periodically throughout the year where you can come and receive the services for free. So please, be mindful of that. Keep an eye out for those things. And like I said, start having the conversation, think about it, and then go from there. So before I close out today, I want to introduce a new segment. I often say that my life is full of a bunch of random different things. I have random thoughts, and a lot of times those thoughts come to me when I'm in the shower. And so going forward, I'll kind of before the end of each episode, I just want to share some of my random thoughts with you all. And, hopefully you all will start sharing yours with me as well. So this week, my random shower thought is really about the shower. So like I said, I like showering. I love it. I love water. And so seeing as how I don't have a pool, or I'm not able to go, I'm not at a beach right now, shower kind of sometimes becomes the closest thing to that. And a lot of times while I'm in the shower, I just have a lot of different thoughts, think about things, process stuff. I pretend I have a singing career because that's the only place I sound good in terms of singing, in the shower. But recently, one of my thoughts was just about cleaning the shower. I take all that time cleaning the shower, and then after I've cleaned it, I don't really want to use it right away because I just want to keep it clean. And I was like, is it weird that I think this? Am I the only one who's like, hey, it's so nice and clean, I just want to leave it that way for a while. I don't want to mess it up, but I also want to get in there because it's clean and I want to take my shower. So let me know, am I the only one who kind of hesitates to use the shower for a little bit after it's clean, whether it's your shower, a tub, whatever, the bathroom in general? Let me know your thoughts. I could be alone, and if that's the case, I'm okay with it. But that's my random shower thought for the week. Remember, life is a process. It's a journey. It's not about the destination. This adulting thing is, it has its fun moments, and it definitely has its moments where I'm like, I just want to be a kid again. I don't want to deal with this. But I know that in the end, it's all working together for my good, and it's going to be all good. So thanks for listening. If you are not currently following us, follow on Instagram at podcast It's All Good. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We are now on YouTube, and the YouTube channel is It's All Good. So please, if you have not already, like, subscribe, follow, leave us some comments. Let me know your thoughts. If there are topics that you want to hear covered, any suggestions you have, we're open. But once again, thanks for listening, and until next time.